So welcome. My name is Carmen. I'm with the North Shore Schools Foundation. I have the privilege of being the executive director. This is our legacy series education program, which comes forth as a byproduct of us wanting to raise awareness about our endowment fund. The North Shore Schools Foundation has had an endowment fund for, I think 7 years now. And our intent is to raise an endowment that provides enough interest kick out that would mean that all of the income that comes in from any new donations would be able to go directly to kids. It's everybody's it's a nonprofit dream. We want to be the people who just absolutely every new dollar comes and supports kids. We are on our way. Currently, we have a goal to raise $500,000 by 2025, and we had a lot less to raise before the market did what the market did, and now we're moving forward with that, which is great. I am thrilled today because I'm bringing you the Kang family, who are all in business together at Cultivant. Their financial advisor business, and it is just super, super fun. I am in the chamber with the Kang family, and I get to see them very often, and Hoon sits on the board with me, and it's just been a really fun relationship to get to know. And one of those things that you realize that the community is filled with resources, and we've been incredibly blessed. Hopefully you read our newsletter that came out earlier this month, or I guess late last month, where Hoon wrote about giving from his heart and being positive and inspired. It was very inspiring and actually made me cry, which is a lot. So you know that Hoon is part of my board members. I'm going to also tell you that he has also, here's a little bit of his resume. He's the past president of the East King County Estate Planning Council, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. He's the founder of the Korean American Coalition, which takes a lot of leadership, and we appreciate that. He's a published author in lots of different places, including the Puget Sound Business Journal and lots of other ones. He speaks 3 languages. I barely speak one. Three languages. It's pretty cool. He is an auditor, a tax specialist. He then moved into being a life insurance advisor and started his own company in 2018 when he was joined by his 2 boys who are in the audience and will be here to answer questions too, Wesley and Christian. Wesley, well, they both have a degree in communications from UW, and I think maybe I did something wrong. I mean, besides the fact that I'm a cougar, but I love that they bring that communications and understanding of people to financial planning, because that's where it gets really scary. When you only know numbers, you can't really talk to people. And I know that they bring their personalities to it. Wesley has a background in account management and development, and Christian has a background in product management. And so it's just kind of the trifecta of goodness at Cultivant. So I'm excited to have them here. And I don't know if I told you this, but Wesley and Christian are both Inglemoor grads, which doesn't surprise me because Inglemoor's kicking out a ton of great grads. So it's wonderful to have you here representing. Woot woot. I feel like I should call Vicki Sherwood right now and be like, why aren't you on this call? Maybe she is. I'll do a little call out in the comments and see if we can get her during the time. So that's my spiel. And I would just love to turn it over to Hoon. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, and watch this. It's like I use my magic skills. Kathleen, you might want to mute yourself for now, and you'll be there to answer questions. And I am going to remove spotlight for me, and it is all you. Take it away, Hoon.
Well, thank you, Carmen, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me today. And really, thank you for the privilege to speak to people who care about the North Shore School District. So I'm joined by my 2 sons here. They're not my brothers, even though we look alike. They're my sons, and they're also my business partners, like Carmen said. And as Carmen said, they went through the North Shore school system, and they were, I can honestly say that they were able to flourish and grow as human beings. They are who they are today, due in no small part to the North Shore School District. I do speak and write on financial topics a fair amount. I publish and I speak, but today, this event is quite personal because it is very close to home. It's the school district my 2 boys grew up in. So hopefully we could talk about, cover a little bit about how charitable contributions work, but also kind of from a human perspective, what it really means. Our heart perspective. I was having dinner with an old friend the other night. We were catching up. We were talking about work, hobbies, sports, families, the stuff that good friends talk about. But as we got deeper into our conversation, I got the sense that he wasn't completely satisfied with how things were going in his life. He kept saying that he has so many regrets in his life and that his life didn't quite turn out as he planned or imagined. And I was actually honestly very surprised because from the outside, from my vantage point, his life seemed really, really good as it gets for anybody. And so I decided to put some sense into his head. So I told him, hey, look, you have a good family with great kids. You're in a respectable profession. You're financially stable. And you're set for comfortable retirement, even if you retired now. A lot of people aren't so fortunate, So let's try to focus on the positive. So, and I reminded him that he and I were both born in South Korea. And what if we just happened to be born a couple hundred miles north? Have you ever thought about that? Right now, if we happened to be born a couple hundred miles north, right now we'd be living under the dictator with a funny haircut. The guy who likes to shoot missiles and get attention and indulge in luxury while his people starve. So, as a matter of fact, we might not even be alive today, right now, right? Who knows? Fortunately, we both live and work as professionals in the wealthiest and the most powerful nation in the world. It's called the land of opportunity. And of course, America isn't perfect. I mean, you don't have to be a news junkie to pick up on all the ugly stuff that's going on. But I told him still, let's not forget it. It was in this country. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, it can get ugly sometimes, but this is where we were able to flourish. We could freely choose from the many top colleges and universities, acquire skills and find jobs that pay fairly. Yes, we had to work hard at times. Yes, it wasn't always fair, but in one form or another, we were generally rewarded for our hard work. And by the way,
I'm about to fart. Oh my God. Oh my fuck! My
okay, thank you for the comment. Anyway, by the way, we had nothing to do with being able to live in this country, he and I. We couldn't choose our parents or where we were born. We had nothing to do with our talents or intelligence or any other genetic attributes we were born with. So I felt like, oh my goodness, I felt like I won the lottery, feeling really lucky. So I think my pep talk worked. He felt a little better after we talked. But anyway, so what does this all have to do with the North Shore School Foundation or charitable giving for that matter? Well, I think it's good for our souls. It's good for our souls to zoom out once in a while and count our blessings, how lucky we are and how much we have. And maybe we can be reminded that we are fortunate enough to be able to give to good causes or give to those in need. And I know that some of us are in a position to give a lot to these causes. So I want to remind us about the North Shore School Foundation's mission, and it is to raise funds and build community partnerships that enhance and inspire learning potential, remove barriers, and build skills for life, thereby amplifying district priorities for student and teacher education and excellence. So here we are. We have before us actually a unique opportunity to give, to help children in the North Shore school community, to help to learn and grow academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and we have the opportunity to do so. we have the opportunity to do our part and give to the North Shore School Foundation to help raise our children one by one. So hopefully, now that I got you in the giving mood, I want to talk briefly about the nuts and bolts of giving. So specifically about getting the biggest bang for your buck when you give. Now, remember I mentioned how America is a land of opportunity and welcomes foreigners like myself? That's because this nation was built on generosity and benevolence. Now, how do I know that? I know this because it's baked into the income and state tax laws. As a financial advisor and a former CPA, I can say that for a fact. As a public policy, America encourages its citizens to give to charities. And charities then turn around and help those in need. And it's sort of organically built into the system in this country. So having said that, so let's start with some basics. So you probably know that you get an income tax deduction for donations you make to charities, right? So for example, if you give $1,000 to a charity, to North Shore School Foundation, your income tax rate is 30%, you get to save $300 on taxes. That's 30% of $1,000. So the math is that even though you're giving $1,000 and the North Shore School District is receiving $1,000, the net after-tax amount you're giving up is actually $700, not $1,000, because $1,000 minus $300 you get back in tax savings. So that's leverage. That's what I mean by it's sort of built into the system. And it makes it economically efficient. The North Shore School District is getting $1,000, you're giving away $1,000, but you're not really giving away $1,000. So, okay, so let's take this one step further. There are a lot of technology companies in the Seattle area. So let's say you work for one of these companies and you did well on your stock compensation, something like stock options or restricted stock units or something like that. Or maybe you bought shares of Boeing stocks many decades ago, or maybe you inherited them. When Boeing was, remember, the single most dominant company in Seattle? In any case, let's say that the value of your stock, either your Microsoft stock or Boeing stock, it grew to $100,000. And let's also say that you don't need those shares to live on or for your financial well-being. And you really want to give them away to the North Shore School Foundation. But you're on the fence because your cost basis is really low. You paid $10,000 for it. So what that means is that if you sell the stock, the shares for $100,000, and your cost basis is $10,000, the difference, the $90,000 is a capital gain. So you'll have to pay tax on that $90,000 gain. If your tax rate is 20%, that's the capital gains rate right now, the tax rate, the actual tax amount is $18,000. Ouch, right? But wait, what if you don't have to sell it, but instead just donate the stock? What happens then? Well, first of all, how much do you think you get to deduct? $10,000 because that's how much you pay for the stock? No, you get to deduct the entire $100,000, the full value of the stock. It's treated exactly as if you sold the stock and donated the proceeds. So you get the full deduction of the full amount, the full $100,000. So you might ask, so whatever happens to the $90,000 gain? Well, guess what? It just goes away forever. That's if you donate the shares directly to North Shore School Foundation. So basically you get to double dip. First, you get a tax deduction for the full amount, $100,000 in this case. And second, you don't ever have to recognize a gain of $90,000. So assuming your income tax rate is 30%, and your capital gains rate is 20%. So there are two different rates depending on the type of income. So your income tax rate is 30%. Your capital gains rate is 20%. You save $48,000 in taxes, $30,000 from deducting $100,000, and $18,000 from not having to report and pay the $90,000 gain and paying tax on that. So there are other tools and techniques that you can use to leverage your donations to maximize income tax deductions. For example, if you're at least 70.5, you can donate to the North Shore School Foundation directly from your IRA and get a tax advantage instead of withdrawing, paying tax, and itemizing that deduction. So you make a direct transfer, and it's like you don't recognize the income. So it's a great tax leverage to do that. You can also use a donor advised fund to get an immediate tax deduction, but without first committing to any particular charity. And if you're fortunate enough to have a large estate and your estate is taxable, you can name the North Shore School Foundation as your IRA beneficiary and get an estate tax deduction. So not only do you save on estate tax in that case, but you also save on income tax because your children, if they inherit it, every time they take withdrawals from the inherited IRA, they have to pay income tax on it. So you also get to double dip here. You save on estate tax and you save on income tax. And there's so many other ways to leverage tax law here, but we don't have enough time to cover all of them, obviously, here. But the takeaway is you can give to the North Shore School Foundation and save on taxes, sometimes a lot on taxes. And so you should really definitely consider, but also be aware that there's a lot of tax leverage here. Having said all of that, I should mention that the tax law surrounding charitable giving is fairly complicated. First of all, you have to itemize your deductions to be able to take deductions on your income tax return in the first place. There are also limits on deductions based on your income, and the limits are different depending on whether it's cash or property, and so on and so forth. And also, there's also rules surrounding valuation of properties if you're donating properties, not cash. So you get the drift. So you should always talk to your tax advisor about your options when you consider making contributions. When I was 13, on December 25th, to be exact, my family, my mom and dad and me and my siblings got on a Pan Am flight. Remember Pan Am from back then? We got on that flight from Japan and landed in LAX. I didn't speak any English. I didn't know anything about this country other than, I watched Columbo on TV and I watched Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and maybe a handful of other American shows and movies, but nothing could have prepared me for my new life in America. So needless to say, my first day in school was terrifying. I was surrounded by strange looking people I didn't know. I couldn't understand anything anyone was saying to me. So I was effectively deaf and mute, and I felt completely impotent. Then I walked into my ESL class. ESL, if you don't know, is English as Second Language class. And there were children from Mexico, Korea, Mexico, Russia, Mexico. But the teachers patiently guided me and other equally frightened immigrant children through the first months and years of our lives in this very strange land. So that was many years ago. I'm now older than my teachers were when they taught me, but I can still see their faces vividly and really fondly like yesterday. They had so much impact on me, they have no idea. Back then, I tried speaking English, and some people would say, "Hey, speak English." Today, I speak English, and people think I was born here. So yes, teachers do make a huge, lasting impact in children's lives. I can personally vouch for that. So it's my hope today that you will strongly consider giving to the North Shore School Foundation. It is really worth it. You will make this world a better place. Thank you. Oh,
I'm like
no.
clapping. I was like clapping, but it wasn't making any noise. And I really appreciate that. That was a really wonderful overview. I think we have covered lots of stuff, but just how charitable giving work, I actually was unaware of how all that like actually dollared out, dollars and cents on that. I am going to open it up to questions and see if we have any questions from the audience. Do we have questions from the audience, Becky? And I'm going to bring the boys up to be with you just to be cute.
Sure. Yeah, I wonder if you could talk a bit more about qualified distributions and required minimum distributions and how to handle them so that they don't generate taxes but yet support the charity.
Yeah, so it's so if you're over 70 and a half, the age changed, but regardless, the concept is you are at some point required to take required minimum distributions from your IRA. And so if you take the money out, the distribution out, that's income, as you know, and then you can turn around. Let's say you take out $100,000. You can turn around and donate $100,000 to charity, to North Shore School Foundation. Or the IRS allows you to say you can take the distribution and directly donate it to North Shore School Foundation, and that'll bypass sort of the taking as income and itemizing on Schedule A, if you will. So in your mind, you might think, oh, what's the difference? You're taking the money out and giving it to North Shore School Foundation anyway. Well, the difference is it basically washes out the entire $100,000 of distribution if you take the qualified distribution, versus if you take the income out first and then report it on as a deduction, there could be some income limitations. There could be other limitations and other hindrance to get the full deduction. So it's a clean way to satisfy your required minimum distribution that you don't need, and just completely get full tax benefit. So there's effectively no income, because the amount you take out and the amount you contribute that passes to the foundation, it washes out.
Okay, and you recommend using that strategy?
Yes, for people who don't need. So there are people that not often, but often enough, people who have accumulated so much wealth that they don't. This required minimum distribution from the IRA is just sort of an annoyance, so to speak. I don't need this income, but I have to take it out. And so if you're in that fortunate situation, then yes, it's highly recommended that you would at least consider that. Yeah. Of course, if you need that to live on, it's a different story. But
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I heard the tax law change recently such that beneficiaries need to use up like IRA residuals within 10 years. So
Yes.
then they can get zonked by taxes if their parents didn't do some thoughtful planning.
Yeah, so you're talking about in the old days when there was a technique called Ira Stretch. What that basically meant was if you were to pass away and you don't, so people, again, going back to the fortunate person who doesn't need his or her IRA to live on, they would take the required minimum distribution, that's it, and just preserve as much of the IRA balance possible. And then if and when they pass away, that goes to the heirs, and well, to the spouse first and then to the heirs. And the heirs got to take the minimum distribution. So that would go on for decades and decades. And because the IRA is not a taxable, it's a tax sheltered account, it grows efficiently, right? Because it doesn't get eaten up by tax. So the children could take it out based on their life expectancy. And so if the child is 40, it's decades. If the child is, say, 25, that's even longer, and so forth. So that's the old rule. So that was sort of used quite frequently, and because usually heirs don't like to stretch it out because they want to access the cash right away and go on vacation and buy a house. So usually it's they name a trust, and the trust, they would be named as trust beneficiaries, and so forth. So it can get somewhat complicated, but the new rule is that the child beneficiary, children that are beneficiaries, so there's designated beneficiary, they have to empty it out within 10 years. So they don't get to stretch it out over their lifetime anymore. And then the IRS recently clarified that. So we used to think, okay, once that rule came out back in 2020 or 2021, okay, you can just take it out in 10 years, anytime during 10 years. But there's new regulations that came out recently that clarified, and they said you have to take it out over their lifetime over 9 years, and then completely empty it out in 10 years, year 10. So there's some nuances and subtle differences, but you're absolutely right. It has to be eventually emptied out within 10 years. So we can't do the decades of stretch anymore. Yeah. So there's some wisdom to for some people, there's some wisdom to empty out the IRA account sooner and pass other assets to the children. Potentially, that's something to consider. And of course, that could be used to contribute to the foundation, the source of contribution. Pardon me?
Yes, excuse me. Are those assets then considered taxable to the beneficiaries?
Yes.
So they then could then use a similar approach to funnel donations to the foundation.
Yes. So
Minimize their tax bill.
Yes, if the beneficiaries receive distributions, it's fully taxable. Yeah. And then they can turn around and contribute, but it doesn't, that qualified distribution rules that we alluded to earlier, that doesn't apply to beneficiaries.
Thanks.
Okay. I know from personal experience that also applies to annuities. My mother-in-law left annuities for her children, and they had to get them used up during that time, and didn't realize it. My sister-in-law got a huge tax bill. That was totally unexpected. So I think there needs to be more education out there in the world for the public to understand that. And she could have maybe done some more thoughtful planning with perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. People don't like to contemplate mortality. So I don't entirely blame people for not wanting to think about it or talk about it. And sometimes they don't want to disclose it to their children because they don't want to spoil them or have them to have any unexpected, sort of unrealistic or some kind of unpleasant expectations or something like that. So
It's huge. And I think that was why we're doing this series, because it is kind of awkward for people to talk about. It's awkward for us to say, you know, consider leaving an end of life gift. We're like, nobody wants that for anybody. But when you start to see it in real life, you start seeing there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong when you don't take the minutes, right? And do the work. You know, you can lose all your estate to the state. You know, the person that you love and meant to give things to just doesn't get them. And then there's tax ramifications that bring you to a whole different tax bracket that you weren't prepared for and would totally, you know, annihilate your lifestyle. So, I mean, when I say we're here to partner, I really mean it. We're here to partner. Like, some people might really need this service. So it's pretty great. And Becky, thank you for bringing the reality of what happens, because you know, it's not all Ferris Bueller and buying, you know, I don't even know what cool cars are anymore, but I'm like Mandalorian. That's not a car. It's a DeLorean, right? That's a car. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Mandalorian is my car. It's a man driving a DeLorean. I don't know. It's a different thing. Tell me, I want to know how, I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I want to hear from the boys, and you know tell me about like why you guys all went to business together. I mean, I know I heard it just a little bit. I heard about the advantages, but tell me what, you know, you had a great job. Everybody had a great job. And then you're like, you know, let's start a business. Would you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I will tell you my short version, and I'll let the boys chime in. For me, when I saw my children, I saw them as very empathetic people. They're very caring, very personable, and I felt like a financial advisory business would be good, because I've been in it for a long time in one form or another. And I enjoyed it, not because of the number crunching. I enjoy number crunching, but not because of that per se, but because it's one profession where I could honestly say that I really get to help people, and I find it very gratifying. And help generations of people sometimes, and very, very satisfying and gratifying. And I felt like my two sons, who were in their 20s, they were doing fine in their corporate jobs, but they were also thinking, oh gosh, you know, I really like more autonomy. So I kind of hear that from them. And so I told them, hey, look, I'm not telling you to do this, but you have these personal attributes that are really very well suited for financial advisory practice, because you really genuinely care for people. You're very empathetic. And I think you'll find it very, very satisfying career. It's a viable career, and you could financial advisory is just an aspect of what we do, and really what we're doing is really helping people, and I think you'll find it very satisfying. So I threw that out there, and long story short, they decided to join and wanted to join my business. So that's my story.
Christian, your turn.
My turn. Well, yeah, I mean, his story checks out. I can validate what he said. I think the pitch that he gave to us was along those lines, and certainly that was something that was appealing to me. Wesley and I both, we went into the technology industry once we graduated college, which was, we're older than we look. So that was a while back. And so yeah, it was a very I would say it was a very good experience, but I certainly, like what my dad said, I'll speak for myself. I certainly wanted a little bit more autonomy. I didn't like that. The one thing that kind of always bothered me was that in order to make an impact, there was a lot of like red tape and a lot of process and different things that you had to go through, and you wouldn't always see the impact that you were making. There was a lot of, I was very removed from the folks who were actually going to be using my product that I was building. Sometimes what I was building as well, did not really have an impact on people. And yeah, I understood that's just kind of how it worked, but we are all fairly kind of independent, autonomous people who really enjoy helping people and getting involved in people's lives and really making a difference. And so shortly after, or not shortly, but after staying at the company for a while, I ended up starting my own business and kind of doing an entrepreneurship thing there. And yeah, from there, it was just kind of, hearing my dad say, hey, maybe, you want to work on this business instead of the business that you're doing. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure to be able to work directly with people. And a lot of it, obviously, there's numbers and there's laws and analyzing people's portfolios and things like that, obviously. But really, when it comes down to it, it's a business of like a relationship business, and it's really, there's a lot of emotional aspects to it that I really appreciate, and I'm grateful that I get to be involved in people's lives in that way, because money is, it seems like it's just dollars and cents, but it's really the reason why we're having this webinar today is, and this talk, is because money has an impact, and it has an effect, and certainly it's teachers when we think about our children, and when we think about our retirement and things like that. There's a very emotional attachment to it, not because some of us might be greedy, but not because of greed or anything, but because of what it affords us. And because of that, I found this work to be very gratifying in that way. So yeah, anyways, that's my story. I'm very happy with the transition I've made, and for the past few years that I've been at the company, it's been very fun and very gratifying.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just, mine will be a little shorter probably. I have the luxury of going last, so I don't have to repeat everything that they've both said now, but I'm the youngest of the three of us. And my story is not too dissimilar from Christian's. I was working in tech as well, and I did essentially just sales is what it was. And just generally speaking, it was going pretty well. I would say I was good enough at it. But at the end of the day, I just didn't like I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but for me personally and my personality and just the way I'm wired, it wasn't very satisfying just pushing product basically constantly, calling up these leads and saying, hey, like, do you need this? Like, this is good for you. It's going to help you. And I did believe in the product. I think it was a helpful thing that, software that we were building, but it's hard to get passionate about something, that is just like, hey, here's your product, like, go sell it. Right. And you got to kind of convince yourself that it's a good thing and it's something you care about and you're passionate about. Sorry, the window is open, a little bit hot. Gonna mute for just a second. All right.
Wes, it doesn't come through, so.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, great. Yeah. So similar to Christian, I guess the one difference is I didn't go start a business of my own or anything like that, but I did decide ultimately, with enough prodding and nudging from my dad, to, give it a shot with him. And I would say that although I joined on, it took a while for me to fully be convinced, kind of go all in mentally and just internally, really believe that, okay, this is going to be my career and profession for the rest of my life, or, for the foreseeable future. But once we got there, got through those growing pains, got through the humps and the bumps in the road, it's like Christian said, it's been really gratifying. The impact we make on people's lives is very direct and apparent. There's not a lot of ambiguity about it. Like, oh, I sold this product, I think it's going to help them, I hope it does. But you get to see the reactions of the clients and the people we're helping, right? And just the sigh of relief from them when we help them, save money in different ways, or to just set them up for success better in the future regarding their finances and their financial plan, retirement, insurance, you name it, right? And so all these things matter, and these different facets of finance really have a direct and tangible impact in people's lives, their families' lives, the people that they love and love them. And so, yeah, it's been a journey, and the journey is obviously not over. We have hopefully a little bit more life ahead of us, and life in this company ahead of us as well. And so, thus far, we're loving it. Really happy to be here. Thank you for having us, Carmen, and the rest of the folks on board here. But yeah, I think that's all three of our stories.
You said yours was going to be shorter.
Did you guys time it?
I don't think you realize how long you talked, Christian.
So you are related.
We are. We are in fact related. Two brothers and a dad. Yep.
Sounds like sibling degree.
Yeah.
I'm familiar
I
with
want
that.
to call out and just say thank you for that, because one of the things is we've been talking about, it's hard to talk about death. It's hard to talk about money. And, I think people think that financial advisors are salespeople. I mean, my first ones told me I had save half your money. And I was like, how? I have cars to buy and things to do. And I think that the industry has really, really shifted. And I think that the financial advisors I know are some of the best people I know. And I'm excited to share with our audience just that there's a lot of diversity out there, but gosh, everybody really, really cares. We haven't had one person present at any one of these legacy series that was like anywhere near anything but compassionate and empathetic and really on people's team. And it means a lot in this world to hear people choose to do good. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being excellent graduates. I love, obviously I get to see you all pretty often, and that makes me very happy. You're good people, and my life is better because I know you. I'm going to call it good because we've been on
Can
for.
I add real quick? I think in many ways, a great financial plan and a great experience with a planner really helps a person's mental health. So you really are sort of like part of the health community, and you may not realize it, but it does make a huge difference in that way. And as well as alerting them to all the wonderful ways that they can leave a legacy in our community, while leaving themselves and their beneficiaries, their heirs, in a much better position. So
True that, Becky. I'm going to quote that on Facebook when I can type and talk. I want to just quickly direct attention to Susan Jackson, who joined our call. She's another member of the endowment committee. She is a retired teacher from North Shore. She was if you ever went to Arrowhead, you know her. She is a life-changing love that has brought us a lot of support too, and I appreciate it. And I want to do a call out because we are actually having an alphabet party, because I am funny and I like to name things alphabet party, because you can give to the foundation through an IRA or a GAF or an RMD, and that's just a lot of letters and I couldn't spell anything good with it. So we're having an alphabet party to just say thank you to the donors that are already giving using those tools. So if you haven't, you still have a chance. The party's not till November. So I want to encourage people to take advantage. And if they decide to do that, we're going to say thank you in November. So that's my other plug. You can find out more about the North Shore Schools Foundation and our legacy and our endowment plan at northshorelegacy.org. And I want to say thank you to the Cultivant team. And I'm going to end our official call with the people. But I want you to stay on so I can say goodbye properly. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.